Welcome to another Field Notes Explainer. Senate Bill 2, the Texas School Voucher Law, is officially coming to life. And the first big change is the name. Texas ESA accounts are now Texas Education Freedom Accounts, or TEFA. Let's get started. Today we're going to cover implementation progress, how Senate Bill 2 is evolving through regulation, the selection of the program operator, public feedback, disability documentation debates, and unresolved questions before the 2026-27 launch. The Texas Education Freedom Accounts Program, or TEFA, is a billion-dollar program moving rapidly from concept to reality. Let's see how the pieces fit together and what they mean for the 2026-27 school year. In August 2025, the acting comptroller published proposed rules for the program with a 30-day comment period. The official statutory deadline for final adoption is May 15, 2026. The journey from Senate Bill 2's legislative text to detailed implementation rules reveals the complexity of translating policy into practice. Several critical clarifications and corrections emerged through the Request for Proposal, or RFP process, for selecting the Certified Educational Assistance Organizations, or CEAO, who will be responsible for administering the program. One major change involved how funds are held. SB 2 required funds be held in trust for each child. The initial RFP interpreted this to mean separate accounts for each child. However, the comptroller clarified that a single omnibus account with individual subaccounts is preferred. This is common in ESA programs in other states. It's more efficient while maintaining the trust requirement in the bill. So there were two additional clarifications made through the RFP process. First, transportation expenses will be limited to travel to approved providers. And second, the comptroller, not the CEAO, will develop the participant handbook. The CEAO will only distribute it. Now, to understand why these rule clarifications matter, we need to examine who will actually implement them. The operational success of TEFA rests entirely on those CEAOs we mentioned. They are the independent contractor selected to manage virtually every aspect of the program through what officials describe as an end-to-end platform. So what exactly does the CEAO do? First, they build the application platform, verify eligibility, and conduct marketing and outreach. They manage the accounts, provide digital wallets, run the marketplace, and approve vendors. And finally, they also handle customer support, data security, compliance, reporting, and fraud prevention, keeping the program running smoothly. SB 2 allows for the state to select up to 5 private entities to operate the program. However, in October 2025, Acting Comptroller Kelly Hancock announced Odyssey, a New York-based technology company, as the sole CEAO. So what will Odyssey do? Odyssey won't just run the program, it will shape it. The company will design how families apply, get approved, and interact with the system. It will build the financial marketplace, deciding which vendors appear, how payments work, and what can be purchased. And it will manage all communications, from marketing to customer support and complaints. In short, Odyssey will turn the comptroller's final rules into a real working system, defining how Texas families actually experience school choice. In the weeks leading to Odyssey's selection as CEAO, Texans had the opportunity to give input on the proposed TEFA rules during the 30-day public comment period. Nearly 200 parents, educators, and private school representatives submitted written feedback, and on September 30, 2025, the Comptroller's Office held a public hearing on the program. 3 key concerns emerged from the public. The first major concern focused on funding for private preschool students. While general TEFA awards are about $10,000 per year, the proposed rules capped these students at just $2,000, the same as homeschoolers. Pre-K providers and one of the bill's authors, Representative Brad Buckley, argued this limit conflicts with the legislature's intent to expand early education options. The second concern? Transparency. Texans called for public reporting on how funds are used, along with data on student performance, demographics, and prior school enrollment. With the $1 billion budget expected to grow, many emphasized the need for strong accountability from the start. Now let's look at the third, and most technically complex, concern: how students with disabilities are identified. These students will receive top priority and up to $30,000 in funding. But differences between the law, the RFP process for vendors, and the proposed rules created major confusion and concern during public comment. Senate Bill 2 defines a child with a disability as one eligible for a school district's special education program under state and federal law. For students not enrolled in public school, parents can request a special education evaluation from their local district. If the child qualifies, the district develops an individualized education program, or IEP, which serves as proof of disability for TEFA prioritization and funding. The additional funding amount is tied to what the district would have received for that child's IEP, linking evaluation, eligibility, and funding. Next, let's look at what those RFP documents said regarding children with disabilities. The request for proposals stated that the selected CEAO would verify disability funding amounts through an interface with the Texas Education Agency. It also emphasized compliance with IDEA confidentiality and required notices that private schools are not bound by the same special education laws as public schools. However, the RFP did not specify any alternative documentation process beyond the IEP pathway outlined in statute. The proposed rules went a step further, expanding on that statutory definition. This is where things get controversial. In addition to an IEP, the proposed rules say that families can submit a Social Security determination letter or a physician's diagnosis describing a qualifying condition. These new options, SSI letters and physician notes, bypass the special education eligibility determination process required under federal and state law and outlined in Senate Bill 2. So why is this a concern for advocates? During the public comment period, they argued that while SSI letters and physician notes may confirm a disability exists, they don't show an educational need for specially designed instruction, the key second step in determining special education eligibility. So why does this matter? Special education eligibility depends on two factors: the presence of one of the 13 disabilities recognized under federal IDEA law, and an educational need for specially designed instruction. Not every child with a disability qualifies for, or needs, special education. The evaluation and IEP process assess both factors, but SSI letters and physician notes address only the first. It would create two different standards for funding and services for students with disabilities in public schools versus those accessing TEFA dollars. Advocates argue that if the proposed rules are finalized as currently written, priority in funding might be redirected away from students who need the most support. So where does this leave us? The Comptroller is reviewing all public feedback and must make final changes to the rules before the May 15, 2026 deadline. Critical questions about pre-K funding, disability documentation, public reporting, the possible inclusion of additional CEAOs, and vendor participation still remain. And meanwhile, Odyssey has its work cut out for it. They must build a working platform, onboard vendors, set up accounts, and support families before applications are slated to open in early 2026. So let's take a step back. TEFA represents one of the largest school choice expansions in Texas history, but the path from vision to reality is complex. Critical decisions on disability identification and pre-K funding remain contested, and Odyssey holds enormous operational responsibility. The stakes are high. Hundreds of thousands of Texas families are waiting to see how this billion-dollar program will work in practice. The bottom line? How Texas resolves these questions will determine whether TEFA delivers educational choice or becomes tangled in implementation challenges. And the clock is ticking. All right, that's it for today. Explore more with Field Notes, where we cover the latest in special education, Texas education policy, and other parenting essentials. And if you need more hands-on support, here's what we offer: TEFA consulting for schools, vendors, service providers, and families, special education and Section 504 non-attorney advocacy, parent and family support services, and of course, our free resource, the Field Notes newsletter. Learn more at Accessible-EducationTX.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. One last quick note: our Field Notes resources are for informational purposes only. We don't provide legal, mental health, or diagnostic services. Parents can book a free 30-minute consultation anytime on our website.